Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Advanced Nearpod. We are going to get started in approximately 10 minutes at 1 o'clock. Thank you again for joining us this afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Advanced Nearpod. We are going to get started in about 5 minutes at 1 o'clock. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Advanced Nearpod presented by the Technology Training Team. Today's meeting will be taking place in WebEx. We're just going to go over some of the WebEx tools so that you're familiar with the software as we continue on today's training. Video is not required for this session. You can turn your video off by selecting the video camera and making sure that it is red. We also ask that you leave your microphones muted throughout the entire session in order for us to fully present and for everyone to hear the session smoothly. So please make sure that those microphones are turned red for the entire session. We will be utilizing the chat window, so on your participant panel, please locate the chat. In the chat, we will be providing links, as well as that is where you'll be able to ask any questions you have regarding Nearpod. And if you do need to leave today's session, select the red X to leave the WebEx meeting. And note this session is being recorded and the recording will be posted on the remote teaching site later this week. And again, good afternoon and welcome to Advanced Nearpod presented by the Technology Training Team. For all remote teaching resources, please visit our remote teaching website at bit.ly/PGCPS remote teaching. We are your hosts today. My name is Clarissa, and I'm also joined with Megan, Marianne, and Jake. You will hear from Marianne later today, and then Megan and Jake will be facilitating our chat. So we're going to actually start today's session with a little game, just to see if this session is right for you. So in this session, what we're going to be doing is actually creating a Nearpod lesson from scratch. So you'll be learning all the tools and things that you can do with inside Nearpod. But we're not going to be looking at the Nearpod library. We're not going to be learning how to join or to set up a Nearpod account. And we're not going to be looking at the reports. All of those types of information is going to be in that introduction to Nearpod session. And if you're looking for that session, that webinar is posted on the remote teaching website for you to refer back to. So let's get started. Let's see if this session is right for you. And we're going to do a Nearpod activity called Time to Climb. So what I'm going to ask you to do is open up a new tab in your browser. So you can refer back to our WebEx session, so leave this open, but we're going to also ask you to open up a new tab. So I'm going to pull this one out to the side, and we have a code for you. So you can either click on the link that is put in chat, or you can actually go to join.nearpod.com and enter in this code ABKTE. And I'm going to sample or show you that over in a different tab here. I am going to show both views just so you can see as I'm getting into the student view how it is a little bit different from both screens. So we're going to go to join.nearpod.com, or you can click on the link that was posted in chat. That link will take you directly here. Once you're in this screen, you're going to enter in today's code, which is ABKTE, and it is case sensitive. So once you are in this session, you will select join. You can enter in your name or you can use a nickname. It's completely up to you. Names will be shown throughout the session, so that will be posted there for you, okay? So we did post a correction link. The first link did not go to this activity. So that will be posted for you, and then join this session. Once you get in, you will be asked to pick an avatar. So we will get there. I'll give everyone a minute just to get to join.nearpod.com, or by clicking on that link that was posted in chat. All right, so we'll do space today. Check out that time to climb background. So as you're connecting, you'll see that when I started the game that your screen did change and you can choose an avatar. So I see some of you have already picked your avatars. If you slide to the right, there are more options. So they have plenty of avatars to choose from. They go from cute little kiddish ones to some grown-up avatars here. So I'm going to start with my giraffe and then I'll select start. So you'll now see all of our little avatars are joining in. I have 43 in this session. As you select your avatars, that number will go up. So I'll give everyone just a few seconds to get into our game here. This time to climb activity is available in student pace mode. So we are doing it live mode here, but if this is something you would like to do with your students, it is available on student pace mode. All right, so we have about 40 connected here. I'm going to go ahead and press start. If you have not joined, remember you can go to joinpd.com and enter in the code ABKTE and you can join us at any time. All right, so we're going to go ahead and press start. And if you want to just follow along and watch, that's completely fine too to see how this game works. So I'm going to go ahead and press start. You'll notice your screen is counting down and a question is going to pop up. Go ahead and answer that question to your best of your ability. It is timed. And when that timer does run out, you will notice all your little avatars start to run up the mountain and it will move to that next question. All right, so we have 25 seconds to answer this next question. Your screen froze, you should be able to refresh and it should take you back in. All right, so we have a new leader. So Jenny has moved to the top as the avatars are racing and we move to the next question here. All right, can you adjust that active session code for student-paced learning? So can you change that from that 29-day calendar? All right, so we're moving on. So we're hitting on to that fourth question here as we move in. See if we have a new leaderboard as we go in. Yes. So Daphne has jumped to the top. Can you add Nearpod directly into Google Classroom? As that question comes to an end, you'll watch your little avatar climb. All right, Daphne is still in the lead here. As we're on question 5, I need to create student accounts for Nearpod. So we do know that that question is false. We do not need to create student accounts. And Jenny has popped into first place as we continue up the mountain. All right, a little bit of a long question here. The faster you answer, the faster and more points you get as you climb up the mountain. We're coming down to the last 5 seconds here on this question. All righty, so we have a new leader. We're coming into the last and final question here, question 7. Who will take home our Time to Climb champion for today? In what format can you download session reports? All right, we're out of time. We'll see who our Time to Climb champion is here. Mrs. Stratton, congratulations. You are our Time to Climb winner today. So I hope you enjoyed our Time to Climb game to see if this session is right for you. So we do see those points there. You can hide these, so if you don't want your student's name to be shown, you can hide those as the session Time to Climb continues if this is something you're doing with your students. But it is kind of a fun way to gamify the learning and test their knowledge. So that was Time to Climb to see if this session was right for you, and if you knew those answers, you are in the right spot. So we are going to learn how today to create a Nearpod lesson from scratch. And I am going to turn this over to Marianne, and she is actually going to take you step by step on how to create a Nearpod lesson today. And we did Time to Climb. Time to Climb is something that is fairly new to Nearpod. It is a really great way to engage students, to get them really involved in into the learning and really just kind of play. Like, it was fun, right? I know we have a fun time in our office when we play Time to Climb.
Okay, thank you so much, Clarissa, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and congratulations to Mrs. Stratton. I apologize if I mispronounce your name, but I'm just adjusting my screen right here. So I'll be talking about how to create a lesson from scratch, and we'll be talking about 3 different things that you can include in your Nearpod lesson, where you can add content, add web content, and add an activity. So just to let you know that our presentation is made available already on the remote teaching site. And we have several screenshots and labels and directions and videos to walk you through this. So on your own time, you can go back to these slides. But I'll be showing you actually live in Nearpod so that you can see it. And if you would like to, if you would like to, it's completely optional. You can open up your own tab and follow along with me if you want to. If you want to try to create this lesson with me. The focus on this lesson is kind of like end of the school year, reviewing some of the things that we've learned throughout the school year. And just my screen here. So I'll be talking about where we're going to start creating and the parts of a Nearpod lesson and how to put that together, and along with the different types of things. The first one I'm going to be talking about as I go in is adding content. And there are several things that Nearpod has to have you insert content in your lessons. So here I'm going to go here to nearpod.com. I'm already signed in, so on the top right, I'll have my Nearpod. If you're not signed in, you'll just sign in using your Google account, your PGCPS Google account. And When you're in, it automatically takes you to your home page, and your home page is really your library. So if you haven't created anything or saved anything from the Nearpod lesson library, this will be empty. I have several lessons on here that I've created and lessons that I've added to my Nearpod lesson library, along with lessons that other teachers have shared with me. To get started, you will go here where it says lesson in create your own, and there are two options for lesson in Google Slides or lesson in Nearpod. For today's demonstration, I'll be doing it lesson in Nearpod, and we will also talk about how that works in Google Slides. So I'm going to go ahead here and click lesson in Nearpod. And it will take me here where I can start working on my lesson from scratch. The very first thing at the top, you'll see it will be an untitled lesson, but you can rename it by clicking on it and typing in. And the one I'm going to use today for my example is Mission Possible, and I'm going to name it for this date, May 20th. Okay, and when I click out of it, it's already saved. Then at the top here, right below the title, you have options to add a slide, delete a slide, copy a slide, paste a slide, or convert to drawing it to a draw it slide. As you can see, add slide and paste are the only ones highlighted because right now I don't have any lessons in here. If I had any slides in here, then certain options will be highlighted and I can use it. So the first thing I'm going to do is click here is add slide. And again, these are the three options you can include: add content, add web content, and add activity. So the first thing I'm going to do is add content. And you'll see here there are several types of content that you can put in your lesson. Nearpod has teamed up with a lot of different ed tech companies and to make your lessons a lot more interactive and more friendly, and be able to use other tools that you've used and be able to incorporate that into one. Before I go into here, I just wanted to show that in the slides, I'm going to be explaining how to add content using slide. And anytime you see an asterisk in our presentation, that means I'll be demonstrating it here. If you wanted to learn more about it, you'll see a tiny link on the corner, and when you click on that, it gives you more information. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is add a slide. I'm going to click that. And it looks similar to some features in Google Slides or in PowerPoint, where you have a layout and you can click to add a title and embed any images, videos, or text. So the first one I'm going to do here is on the right side, you'll see is themes, where you can just choose a template that's already has a design to it, so you don't really have to think too much about it. For this example, I'm going to use this one. And here I can add a title and start including things on my slide. Before I do this, I'm going to show here at the bottom, background. So instead of having this black background, I can insert my own image from my computer or my Google Drive, my Dropbox, or my cloud, or I can do a safe Google search image for a background that I want. For this example, I don't have an image. I want to keep this black. But next to it is layout. So instead of having just a text box and one element, I have 4 options total. One whole element, a title plus 1 element, a title plus 2 elements, or 4 elements altogether. So for this example, I'll use a title and 2 elements, and I'm going to name it Mission Possible. Then here on the left side, I can choose to do text or upload files. I want to do text. And for time's sake, I am copy and pasting a message that I have ready for my students. And I can edit it to put some spaces to make it look more organized. And every time you have a text, you have an option to resize the font, change the alignment of your text, put bullets, a numbered list, or delete it altogether. So here is my example. And on the right side, I want to use an image. So I'm going to click plus. Since I don't have an image ready, I can search an image. So I'll click here, image. I can drag something if I already have something ready, but I don't. So I'm going to do a Google search image, and my theme is Mission Possible. So maybe I'm going to look for something like Top Secret. And then I could see all the different images that I can use. I like this one because it goes with my theme. And when I click on it, it's now part of my slide. When you see the little plus and minus, this is where you can zoom in or zoom out to adjust how you want your picture to look, or you can delete it completely. So far, I like the way it looks, so I'm good with my text and my images. And next to it, you'll see an option where it says audio. If you have a recording already, you can upload a file already. You need to make sure that it is a audio file that is acceptable on Nearpod. I believe it's a .mp4, and then, or you can record right here on the fly with audio recorder. So for this example, I'm going to do how to use the recorder, and that you don't have to go to a third-party tool or go to another website. It's already embedded here, so you don't have to try to do a recording on a separate program. You'll see here that the recorder is ready for me to use, and all I have to do is click on the microphone and start speaking. So here's my example. Good day, class. We have been working tirelessly all school year, and now it is time to shine. You'll be tasked to do several activities, but I believe in you. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to face your fate. Good luck, boys and girls. So I pause it. I can continue adding recording to it. I can play it to review. I can delete it, but I believe my recording is perfect, so I'll click save. Then you'll see an uploading. It'll give it a moment to load. And now you have it already, excuse me, already embedded into your slide. So you can do a recording to read whatever is on here, or if you had an image, you can do a recording however you want. Okay. So now that I'm ready, I can also preview to see what it looks like for my students. And this is what it would look like. They'll see the title, the text, the image, and the recording. I can just close out of that preview. And if I'm ready to go, I'll click Save and Exit. And then it will say, because I chose a theme, it's going to modify all my slides so that it will all look uniform and the same. So I'll click Save. And now I have my first slide. And you'll see on the bottom right, file processing. It just takes a minute for it to fully process everything, but you can continue working if it's still processing. So now I have my first slide, and it's just a text. Now, I did create several other slides just like this, and I made an image of it because of the time. I don't want to spend time showing you to make another slide. I'm going to show you here that I have images saved on my computer that I'm going to upload in here to my Nearpod lesson. So before I continue adding other activities and content, I'm going to go here to upload files. And again, I can upload from my computer, from my drive, my Dropbox, or OneDrive. And make sure you pay attention to what you see here, and it tells you what files you can drop in here. So anything that's a PNG, a PPT, which is PowerPoint, or PDF. So I have here on my computer, if you see this popping up, from my computer, actual image that I'm going to drag and drop. Give it a moment, and now I have my second slide. So I'm just going to let you see, take a preview, that I already made slides ahead of time. So if you're wondering where I'm getting this from, it's because I made this in advance to help save time throughout this demonstration. Okay, so I have different tasks, and I'm going to upload really quick. My task 2. Oops. Tries for that. Task 2. And I have a total of 4 tasks. Task 3. one more. Take my image. I can drag and drop it from anywhere from my computer onto this screen, or I can click the arrow pointing up and find the file that I'm looking for. So I have all of my slides in here, and I'm ready to put in additional content for my students. The next thing I'm going to show here, and I'm going to click Add Slide here and go back to Add Content, is different types of interactive learning. So here we have there's several types of add content, and we've tried to organize it so you understand the different types of things you can add. So these 4 here are interactive learning content, where you can include a Nearpod 3D, a PhET simulation, Nearpod's virtual reality field trip, and Desmo's graphing calculator. For this example, I'm going to be showing you how to PhET and field trip, but just as a reminder, if you wanted to get more information, you can always click on the links on our presentation to learn more about it. So I'm going to go back here to my Nearpod lesson. I go to Add Content, and I want to do a PhET simulation. So PhET is where they created interactive simulations for math and science. And when you click on it, you'll see that it's divided by content area. These 3 are math and science. And then it's then divided by school level. So here's elementary school level, middle school, and high school. So I have experience in teaching 2nd grade. So there's different kinds of content that you could try to find for your elementary. For this example, I'm going to do Area Builder Game. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that and click Done. Once I've selected, it's going to create a slide and add it to my lesson. And it's always going to be at the end, but I have the option to move it up anywhere I want. So my task 1 was for my students to give that moment to review, was to review area models in math, and they're going to test their knowledge in the next slide. So when I click on it, you can see what the students will see. And here, this is where they're going to practice area models. They have an option to choose a level, and they have to make an area model that equals 12. So they can drag the different things in here to make their area model. I can even break things off and remove that. And then I can add again, however I want. And then I can click check to see if I'm right. So it's a little game for them to practice. So you can see this is not 12. I could try again and play. It's mostly for a review for them to practice the different kinds of math and science skills. So PhET is really good for that. So again, I included a PhET simulation as an area builder, and I put it into my slides. Another type of interactive learning is field trip. So I'm going to go back here and click Add Content. And here you'll see Field Trip Nearpod VR. I'm going to click on that. And what Nearpod virtual reality does is where they're going to have several different types of destinations available that you can view in full 360 mode. If your students had a virtual reality goggles or lenses, they could actually turn it into VR and see it in actual virtual reality. But even if they didn't have that, they can still view it as 360. For this example, I can search a different destination if it's available, or just browse through by scrolling up and down. But I'm going to look for New York and search that. Give that a moment. Apologize. It's really thinking here. Here we go. So these are all the 360 images that are available for me in regards to New York. For my example, I want to do Times Square. So I'll choose this one, Times Square, and click Done. It's going to work its magic, and now it's included a slide where it says Field Trip to New York City. I want to do that as my task 2, so I can drag it over here, and I'm just going to preview so you can see what it will look like. So I made a slide with text and content. where I tell the students it's been a while since we've been outside, whether you've been there or not, let's take a trip to New York City. And task 2, a good spy has good eyes. Can you find my favorite fast food restaurant? What popular Disney movie is on Broadway? Then they will go to the next slide. And this is what it will look like for the students. They can drag around till let's take a look, 360 of Times Square in New York. And then I'm just going to scroll here again. You can see there's McDonald's, the fast food restaurant, and then they can try to find the Disney movie that I have in here. So this is what 360 will look like. And at the top here, it says enter VR. That's if you had virtual reality goggles, students could view it using it that way. I don't have that, so this won't work for me. Close that. So now we've talked about types of interactive learning content, and there's also a way to add content, video content. If you are very familiar with Flowcabulary, Flowcabulary has several library of songs and videos and activities that you can embed in there. So if you already have an account on Flowcabulary, you can include videos from there. Also, you can grab videos from BBC Worldwide, and you can even upload your own YouTube video. More things that you can upload is an entire slideshow, audio, which we showed in the slide example, a PDF viewer, and again, upload video, but instead of a YouTube video, you can upload your own video. For example, like a Screencastify video that you probably created before. So I'm going to be showing that here. I'm going to click Add Slide and Add Content. I created a video already in Screencastify for my students, and I'm going to scroll here until I see video. When I click on video, again, I can search a YouTube video right here, right here from Nearpod. I can drag and drop a file, a video file right onto here, or I can choose from one of these things. I have a Screencastify video in my Google Drive, so I'm going to click Drive, and this window will pop up. I highly suggest that if you have a video in your Drive, to make sure that you name it, because that's the best way to find it when you open from your Drive. So I'm going to type in verb lesson, and you'll see here. And it's only showing you things that are in .mp4 because anything else is not compatible. So I can search it, or I can scroll down until I find it. And here's my lesson that I created on Screencastify, and click select. Give it a moment. And now it's in my Nearpod lesson. Because it is a video that's not coming from online, from Nearpod, it does take a lot longer for it to process, but you can still keep working on your lesson for this. So while I'm waiting for that to process, I'm going to drag this over and put this with my task 3, so I can organize my lesson to make sense for my students. While that's processing, I'm going to go ahead and show that other than uploading content, you can also add web content. So, and that means a link to anything on the internet. So here, I'm going to go and click Add Slide. And instead of going Add Content, it has a button right here for you that says Add Web Content. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And now you can see all you have to do is copy and paste a URL for your students to be able to see it. So instead of them going to a whole nother tab or a whole nother window to see a website, you can put in a link here, and the students will be able to stay within Nearpod and view the website without having to go to another tab or window. So the example I'm going to use here is National Geographic for Kids, and you'll have an option to test the link. When you click on it, it will open a new tab for you as a teacher to make sure that it takes you to the right site. So this is the right website. It took me there, and I will close this tab. And because it works, I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Okay. So Now that my video has processed, you could see that the gears on the bottom right are not there anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to here so you can see the video, and then I will show you how the website will look like for the students. So I'm going to go here to task 3, click preview. In language arts, we have learned about verbs. Review the verbs video and complete the matching activity. So I'm going to go ahead and click here. And here is my video embedded here. Verbs. So I'm just going to stop so you can see the students can press play on the bottom corner and adjust the volume. Then when I go to the next one, task 4, in science, we learned about different habitats. On the next slide, learn about your favorite animal and their habitat. I also have an activity for collaborate, which I'll show in a moment. Then I go to the next slide. Because I'm in preview mode, it's going to open up into another tab. But when the students are actually seeing it, it will be in their own screen. This is just for preview mode purposes, but they will be able to view the website that you embed in here. Just a reminder that this is because I'm in preview mode. Okay. So now we talked about add web content. And additionally, to add content, if you already have some a Twitter account or use Microsoft Sway or use Flipgrid, you can embed these as well in your Nearpod lessons. So we had some training on Flipgrid, which is also posted on our remote teaching site. So if you wanted more information on that, we have a presentation and a web recording on Flipgrid, webinar recording, so you can take a look at that. And again, the links that you see on the corners will give you more information on how it works with Nearpod. Okay, the next part that I'll be talking about is adding activities. But is there any questions that we need to cover? Because I know I went through a lot of information on there.
Marian, it looks like everything that's been asked has been covered, or I know is coming up shortly.
Okay, great. You guys are doing awesome on the chat. Okay. So the next part that you can put in your Nearpod lesson is adding activity. So these are all the different types of activities that you can add. Some of these were examples that were shown from the introduction to Nearpod. And you saw that example that Clarissa did was on time to climb. To actually learn more specifically about each one, we created a link here so that you could see how each individual one works. But because these are really self-explanatory, as soon as you click on it, Nearpod's going to ask you for certain things so that your activity can be used into your lesson. So the ones I'm going to be showing you is matching pairs, draw, and collaborate. I'm going to go back here to my lesson. I'm going to go ahead and click add slide. And instead of going to add content and add web content, I'm going to go here to add activity. And this is where you can find all the different things that you can add activities on. And for this one, I'm going to show matching pairs. And it's going to prompt you to put the different things to create this activity. So you can include instructions. And I want to use this example for my verbs lesson. So I could say, match the correct verb to the sentence. And down here it says add pair. I'm going to click on it. And then I have an option to put in text or add an image. So for this, I'm going to do the girl is the dog. And again, the matching pair, I can choose to enter text or add an image. I'm going to do text for this example and say walking. So these two are matching. If you did use matching pair for math, if you see this pi symbol, when you click on it, you have options to also include math operations so that you don't have to try to draw these symbols for yourself. You can include these symbols as yourself. I'm going to click out of that. And so I'm done with one pair. and click add another. Type in another example. The class is a book. And my verb is reading. Add in one more example. The boy is up and down. And instead of doing text, I can add an image. Click on that. Again, I can drag a file that I already have on my computer or one of these options, or I could do a search for Google. So I'm going to look for jumping. And these are all my options for jumping. So I think this one's a good example to show jumping. And again, I can still zoom in and zoom out to the way I want it to go. And I'm done with putting my pairs. If I have another one, I can click add another. I'm going to go ahead and click done. And you can see all of my pairs. So the girl is walking the dog. The class is reading a book. The boy is jumping up and down. I can continue adding more pairs, but if I think I'm ready to go, I can click save. And right before then, I'm going to show here on the top right, on every add activity, you'll see an option to add timer. So if you wanted your students to only have a certain amount of time to work on it, you can choose 1 minute, or you can choose these second intervals. I'll click add. And if I'm ready to go, I'll click save. So I have my matching activity, but it goes with my verbs lesson. So right after my verb video, oops, I'm gonna put it over here. I want to make sure they do this activity right after they watch the video. Another one that we could do is, excuse me, is uploading a Google slide that you've already created, and for students to be able to draw on it. So here I'm going to click add slide, add content. Slideshow. Go to my drive. Gives it a moment. And mine is, oops, I'm going to search it, field trip to New York. And you can see here this yellow icon, that means it's a Google slide. It's only one slide that I have in here, and I created it in Google Slides. I named it Field Trip to New York, and I'm going to click select. Okay. Now it says here, slideshow. Okay. It's still processing. Okay, I apologize. I didn't mean to add a slideshow. So I realized that this is something I didn't want to put in here. I can right click on it and click delete. This is just slideshow. Instead, I'm going to go down here and click upload files. Go to Google Drive. I apologize for going the wrong direction. Field trip to New York. And here, again, here's my Google slide. I'm going to click on it and click select. It's going to ask if you want it to be a PDF viewer or individual slides. I'm going to use individual slides. Give it time to process. Okay, so now I have my actual Google slide on here. I'm going to show you here that it turns it into an image that you cannot change or make any changes to. So it's just an image. But I want my students to be able to work on this by being able to draw or type on it. So I'm going to close this. And You'll see here, I have this selected, and at the top it says convert to draw it. This is a Google slide that I created, and when I upload that file from my drive, it turns it into a still image that you cannot change. Kind of think of it as like a background so that students can work over it. So I'm going to click convert to draw it. And then it says, if you want to create a draw it from the slide, and do you want to keep a copy of the original slide? I already have this Google slide in my drive, so I don't need to make another copy. So I'm going to click no. Give that a moment. And now it's become a draw it. You'll see this icon. So when I click preview, you'll see here that you'll see the drawing tools at the bottom for the students to add their information. What kind of community is New York City? They can circle it. What kind of community is Landover? And they can either draw or type in their text. This is how are both communities different. They are different because, I can move that over here because it makes more sense, and on. So that's how the students can draw and manipulate through this. I'm going to close out of this preview. And as a reminder to myself, this has to do with my field trip to New York, so I can drag this over here. And the last activity I'm going to show is collaborate. So I'm going to click add slide, add activity, and I really like collaborate. It's very similar to Padlet for those of you who are familiar with that. And it's an open-ended kind of question, and students can just share out their ideas. So when you open collaborate, it will ask you to include an image, enter a topic, or enter a description. So I'm going to click enter topic. And here I'm going to have my students to share what they learned. Share what you learned. And this is in relation to seeing their National Geographic lesson website. I'm going to copy and paste this where it says, tell us what animal you research, what habitat do they live in, share an interesting fact, and include pictures if you can. So those are the things I can put in here. And I could also choose a different style if I want to change the look of it. I want to use this corkboard and click save. Because that's the last piece of my lesson, it's also at the very bottom. I can click on it and preview. And see, this is what the students will see. Here it says share what you learned. They could type it in. I learned about a giraffe. They live in the Sahara. They have long necks. And then I can choose a picture. I can upload my own or search. Here are giraffes. I like this one. Click save. And when I'm done, I'll click post. So this is how the students will respond. Here's what I typed in. Here's my image. And the students have an opportunity to like each other's posts. So that is collaborate. Okay, so we showed a different how to add activities. And now launching the Nearpod lesson. Okay, I think my lesson is perfect. It's ready to go. I need to be able to share this with my students. And I have an option to show it as a live lesson or do a self-paced lesson, which I'll be showing here as well. So now that I am done with my lesson, I'll go ahead and click save and exit. And it will take me back to my library. And here is my lesson. And I hover my mouse over it. I could do live lesson or student paced. If I want to do live lesson, I'll go ahead and click on it. And then it will share with me a code that I can share with my students if we were live. Or to make it easier, I can also put this into Google Classroom. So all my students have to do is go ahead to Google Classroom and click on the link, and they're in and start doing the lesson with me. The only difference between live lesson and a student pace is that the live lesson, you can control their screens at certain times and certain points, versus self-paced, the students will be able to go from one slide to another. So this one's live. I'm going to show here. Oops, sorry. Didn't mean to close out of that tab. Okay. So instead of a live lesson, I could do student pace. I'm going to click on that. And you can change the date. Instead of 29 days for them to complete it, I can make it less. I can make it longer by clicking on the calendar and choosing however I want that to go. I can click apply. And I could share the code with my students, have them go to join.nearpd.com, or to make a life a lot easier, I can choose Google Classroom, since that's the platform that we are using. But right before I go into that, you'll see here, this is brand new that just popped up last week. It's require student submissions. So when the students are in the student pace, they can go from one side to another and not answer anything. If you turn this on, this requires them to answer something before they move on in the lesson. So I think this is really helpful. And I'm so glad that Nearpod just recently put this in. So the students have to complete the assignment before moving on to the next part. I'm going to go ahead and click here, Google Classroom. And you'll see a very familiar screen. It's going to ask you which class, how you want to post it. Mine's an assignment, click go. And then it's going to ask you the very same information that you always do in Google Classroom. Mission possible. Complete Nearpod lesson. Again, all the necessary classroom details. And go ahead and click assign. I'm going to click view. So it's in my classroom under classwork. I like to organize everything, so it's under my Nearpod topic. And when the students click on the link, they don't need to put in the join code. They don't need to sign in. It automatically takes them. It's going to ask them their name, join session, and then they can go through the lesson. Okay. I'm going to close out of that. Go back here. Also, when you click this green button, it will show you the progress of the students. See how many of your students have completed the activity or how far they've gone in their lesson. But I can just close this and I'll be like, oh no, how can I check my progress? I close out of it. Anytime you go back to Nearpod and click on student pace, it's going to show all your student pace sessions that are active, and you can go ahead and click on it and view the progress again. So anytime you have a student pace session that's open and live, active, you can click on it, click on which one you want to launch, and click view progress. So you can have multiple student pace lesson sessions at the same time if you wanted to organize it by different homerooms or classes. Okay. I know I did a lot of information on showing that. So the last thing is just talking about the Google Slides add-on. And Clarissa will share more information on that.
So if you are a Google Slides user and you are using Google Slides frequently, you can actually turn those slides into interactive Nearpod activities. So there are two ways to get there. So if you're in Nearpod, you can go ahead and select the lessons in Google Slides, and that's going to direct you back into Google Slides itself. Or if you're already in Google Slides, you can actually go to add-ons. So this is going to be an add-on similar to maybe Pear Deck, if you're familiar with that. And if you select add-ons, you will type in Nearpod and install the Nearpod add-on. So these are for lessons that you already have done in Google Slides, or if you just create in Google Slides already, it's a way for you to incorporate that. What's really great is if you are collaborating with other teachers, this option may be best for you because you can have that live collaboration in Slides and adding in that Nearpod add-on. Some things to note as you are creating these is after you have saved the Nearpod lesson, it's going to direct you back into Nearpod. And from there, if you do make changes, it's in the slides itself, it's not going to save them live time. You are going to have to go back in, select edit, and then publish it, basically publish it again into Nearpod itself. Some other things to note is that when these images or when these files go into Nearpod, they will save as still images, similar to what Mary Ann showed you earlier today. But it is a really great resource if you want to just add on to your Google Slides and make them interactive using Nearpod. So we do have this gift for you here that you can go through, and those steps will also show up in Nearpod as you create them. So on the next slide here, this is the slide that will populate when you go and select Google Slides in Nearpod. So we'll show you how to add in the Nearpod, that you can add in those features, and that you actually have that save and go here. So where it says edit this slide, you do have that option. And then we just have some resources for you. So we've added the resources from the remote teaching site, and this is a direct link to the Intro to Nearpod class. So if you're looking for more information on really getting started and using the Nearpod library as well as reports, that recording is there. And then Nearpod actually does daily live webinars. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about Nearpod, or you're looking for specific content areas, look at their daily webinars and see what they're offering. They have a lot of great resources on those links as well. So we're opening up for questions. I know we've been answering questions throughout the session. So if you are, we will be staying on here to answer those questions. Be sure to fill out the missing attendance form just to make sure that we do capture your attendance for today's session. So yes, so with the Google Slides, you can do self-paced and live lessons. Both of those options are available to you. So everything will work exactly the same as it did through Mary Ann, showing you how to add in the matching and the multiple choice and the draw it. All of those still work just the same way in slides. The only difference is that you are building within slides instead of building within Nearpod itself. So once the self-paced mode calendar date has ended, that code will basically expire and they won't be able to go back and continue that lesson. So you'd have to either extend that date, or you would have to then add in a new code for that lesson, and the students would work on the new Nearpod code. So that due date will make that code basically expire. Absolutely, Heather. You can use existing Google Slides and with Nearpod. You just have to add in the Nearpod extension. You may need to refresh after you add it on, and then you can go ahead and make what you already have interactive. So if you're finished asking questions, or if you still have more, we will be around to answer those questions. We want to thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Our contact information is here. And always refer back to that remote teaching site for access to our webinar presentations as well as recordings of those webinars if you want to go back and rewatch them. Oh, Marianne, can you take a second and just go back to where that report screen is so they can see that really quick?
Yes, so here I'm in my Nearpod, and remember that you can only see reports once you end your sessions. But here on the left, you'll see down here reports. If I click on it, I only have one right now. Oh, actually I have a few. So I could see my reports. I don't have anything completed. When I click on it, I can see which session I've had, and I can see all of the data for all my quizzes, all my polls. I don't have this data in here, but I can have all my collaborate. And at the top, you can download a PDF, a CSV of the entire session, or you could download a PDF or a CSV for each specific student. That's where you'll find your reports.
And just to point out that if you're in student pace mode, you have that option to view progress. So you do have the ability, if you're in student pace mode, to see where those students are at a particular time to see what their progress is.
When you go to the session and click view progress, I don't have any responses right now, but you'll see what the responses are once the students have completed. I apologize for not having any, but this is the session that I just put up. But here you could see that awaiting drawing for any students that are in my class, and it will show all the work that the students have done. If they haven't done it yet, it's not going to, it's going to say here awaiting. If they did it, then they you'll see it on here.
So you as the Nearpod creator will have access to the reports. So any of their work that they've already created, you'll have access to that. Even if the activity or code expires, you'll still have that report. However, if they're in the middle of it and they didn't finish it, they're not going to be able to go back into that code and finish that code directly or that work, but everything they did up until the code expired would be saved.
And someone was saying that they copied a lesson from the library, not able to edit the slides. It's depending on what it is. If it's just like the Google slide that I embedded for my students to draw on top of, it's going to come in as an image. But if it's an activity, you can edit that. If I'm clear with that. Time to climb will be under add activity. You click add slides, add activity, you'll see time to climb.
So the Google slide actually will save in both. It's going to save in your drive, and it's also then going to save in Nearpod.
Again, thank you everyone for joining us. All of our information is on the remote teaching site. And here is our contact information. Hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon.